course, did This Boy's Life, as you know. You know all this information. That's
yes, I do, yes.
And you've heard me say
but you
it
could
quite
tell me again.
I did This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro, who you know. You know him.
Robert De Niro, I know, yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
You've met him before.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do research, as I hadn't seen many Robert De Niro's films except for Midnight Run with my father.
Explain, though, I think, how old were you, though?
I was 14 at the time. 15 years
so
old.
It's understandable that you hadn't
Yes.
seen a lot of his films that he had made in the early 70s. You weren't allowed to. You were too young. You would have seen it. You would have been traumatized.
Traumatized. Never recovered. So I was 15, and I saw Taxi Driver. That was my first introduction to your films, and I was immediately captured by Travis Bickle and felt empathetic, sympathetic towards him, and wanted to clean the streets with him, and hated the residents there. And until that moment where he started to betray me, which was a very big betrayal.
He starts to make a change.
Starts to make a homemade killing device.
Yeah, crazy.
Then I started to realize, wow, I'm not supposed to be sympathetic towards this guy. I don't really understand. And so at 15 years old, getting my mind wrapped around that concept was kind of a revolutionary idea for me in the following of a characterization. And so that was my first introduction to your work. And I'll shut up now.
Yes, my introduction to you was Bob De Niro, again, telling me after working on This Boy's Life, this is this kid I was working with, this young kid named Leo. He said, his name's Dicaprio. You should really work with him sometime. He's really good. That was it. And we don't really, you know, Bob and I tend to meet each other sometimes. We have a lunch every now and then in an Italian restaurant. We talk, you know, we don't say anything, you know, who's that guy going by? We try to, you know, don't say anything. And he says, yeah, he's a good kid, don't you know? You may want to work with him. I said, all right, let me know. Let me know if what else he has. He goes, yeah, you should see these other pictures. There's something else he did about Gilbert something he's going to do. So then I saw this Gilbert Grape picture, the Lasse Hallström, right? And you and Johnny. That was an extraordinary thing because I didn't quite know. You see, I had seen that before. Then I saw This Boy's Life after. So I think it was the first thing I'd seen of your work. So I honestly didn't, when I saw it on TV, it's sad to say, but it was a very big screen.
And Sven Nykvist was the cinematographer.
Yeah, you know, that particular
You shouldn't
picture,
have seen it on television.
I know, but it didn't matter. It was on. I was just about, it was started, and I said, let's watch this, because I heard about Remember Your Name, and but I couldn't find you in it. In other words, I didn't know. It seemed to me like a semi-documentary. I couldn't quite tell. Then I realized it was you acting in it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was just it was an extraordinary work, an extraordinary, beautiful work. And other friends had told me about the picture, too, prior to that. That's why. And I was not playing in theaters anymore, and I missed it, etc. So that was the first time. And then when I was finishing Bringing Out the Dead, there was talk of doing a movie at Warner Brothers. I owed them a movie, I think, from an old deal. That became Departed, actually.
That became Departed? Because Miramax was Gangs of New York.
Gangs, exactly. But Departed wound up at Departed somehow wound up doing this picture Departed at Warner Brothers. And apparently I owe them another film, I think they told me, but I don't know. Something like that, yes. But the whole point, you see, is what happened that when I found out that you liked my pictures, or at least the films, you know, that I made with Bob, you know, and Gangs of New York was going to be put together. Mike Ovitz brought us together.
I already sought out Gangs of New York ever since I was 18.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was 18 years old and wanted to work with you, and I'd been tracking what happened with the project.
That's it.
Quite simply, we didn't know each other, and there's a trust factor that develops, I think, naturally over time. I think the more we talked, the more we discussed the type, and our mutual enthusiasm for different art forms, mainly cinema, gave us an understanding that I think that we had the same intent. We didn't always know what we were going to do from movie to movie, and I think that was
kind of
the
the fun
idea
of it too.
Yeah.
That was kind of the fun. When you guys sent me the script of The Aviator, I had gotten Gangs of New York sort of almost out of my system. I don't think it still is out of my system completely. But I said, yeah, let's try working together on this, and that's the picture where we really forged something of really very well-planned pre-production with John Logan, the writer, a process of discovery, a process of catching literally major research,
Absolutely.
and many, many hours of discussion. many hours of discussion, and all distilled down to that performance that that you gave in the film, and ultimately into the last scene where he looks in the mirror and says, "The way of the future."
Well, it was incredibly empowering for me because having brought the project to you, I felt a massive amount of responsibility for the movie as well. But no, I think that was where I think a lot of the trust was really forged in our relationship, quote unquote, because you gave me this